Ever feel like you're trying to piece together a massive puzzle, but you're missing that one key piece, the bit that makes the whole picture just snap into focus?
Yeah, like you want the secret decoder ring for understanding something really big, really fundamental.
That's exactly what we're trying to do here on the deep dive for you today.
We're not just, scratching the surface. We're digging down, way down.
And today, that foundation is the fundamental human drive that, believe it or not, kind of underpins everything we do.
Everything.
And we've got a really interesting source for this one. AI understanding of human practicality. It's quite an angle, isn't it? Seeing our deepest motivations laid bare through a purely analytical lens.
It is. It gives us a chance to see the hidden engine driving human behavior sort of stripped down to its core parts.
So our mission here is to pull out the most crucial insights from this AI analysis, make them really clear, and show why getting this matters to you, especially if you're looking for knowledge that genuinely sticks.
Like so.
Okay, so this fundamental drive the AI keeps flagging, what exactly is it?
Well, the source really pinpoints it as the fundamental drive for adaptation and well-being. You should think of it as this primal, often quite subtle urge, not just to survive, but actually to flourish.
Flourish?
Yeah, it's about minimizing things that feel like threats or discomfort physically, emotionally, even intellectually, and constantly trying to reach a state of equilibrium, satisfaction, or maybe finding some sense of purpose.
Okay.
And the AI's analysis really hammers home that this isn't just a cultural thing. It sees it everywhere. A universal human operating system, basically.
So this is like the core programming running in all of us, no matter where we're from or who we are.
Precisely. And this drive, according to the AI's data crunching, it powers some really key areas of our lives. Survival, obviously.
Right. Food, water, safety.
The basics.
The basics. But also procreation, that biological push to continue the species. Then you see it in growth and development, our need to learn, to get better at things.
Skills, knowledge. Exactly. Social connection is huge, too. Forming bonds, working together, even competing sometimes. It all feeds back into this drive.
And the last one.
Meaning-making. That very human quest to figure out our place,
Right.
To understand the why.
Okay. Got the engine, this fundamental drive. Now, the source talks a lot about human practicality. How does that fit in?
Right. Well, if the drive is the engine, human practicality is kind of like our constantly updated user manual. It's the collection of knowledge, skills, strategies, even those gut feeling.
Heuristics,
yeah, that we use to navigate life and actually satisfy that fundamental drive. And it's deeply personal, rooted in our experiences, intuition, emotions, the specific situation we're in.
Can you give us some quick examples, like really down-to-earth ones?
Sure. Think about a baby crying when it's hungry. Super basic, right? But totally crucial practicality for survival.
Can't get more practical than that.
Or a kid learning to share a toy so they can make friends. That's practicality for social well-being. Or an adult learning a new trade to get a better job. Practicality for economic security. It just shifts and adapts through life.
That makes it very clear. So how does an AI... how does it understand this? It doesn't have experiences or gut feelings.
And that's the absolute key difference, isn't it? The AI doesn't get it through feeling or living it.
Right.
Instead, it processes just massive amounts of data on what we do, what we say, how we interact, the choices we make. It looks for patterns.
Patterns in problem-solving, decision-making.
Exactly. How we chase our goals. It can build these incredibly complex models, even predict outcomes based on those patterns. But, and the AI analysis itself points this out, it completely lacks that genuine subjective experience.
The feeling of being human.
Yeah, that intuitive sense that really underpins our practicality. For the AI, it's just super advanced pattern matching. Very sophisticated, but still pattern matching.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. How does this drive, working through our practicality, sort of ripple outwards?
Yeah.
How does it shape all these different areas of life, even things that seem totally separate, like genetics and biology?
Well, the AI analysis basically confirms this drive is, quite literally, written into our DNA. Natural selection, right? It favors traits, physical, behavioral, that boost our chances of surviving and reproducing.
Makes sense.
Think about basic biological responses. Hunger tells us we need fuel. Thirst, hydration. Pain warns us off danger. Pleasure reinforces good stuff. And the fight or flight response, that's pure biological adaptation. enhance practicality when facing threats.
The survival mechanism.
Totally. The AI even highlights how some maybe irrational fears could be like evolutionary echoes, old survival needs encoded in us, primal practicality in our genes.
Wow. Okay, clear evolutionary link. What about something more abstract, like philosophy?
Oh, philosophy's been grappling with this drive forever.
Yeah.
Seriously, questions about the good life, virtue, meaning, suffering.
It all comes back to it.
It all connects back to how we understand and try to satisfy this drive for well-being. Think about, say, Stoicism.
Okay.
The AI analysis basically flags it as like an ancient algorithm for maximizing well-being by focusing only on what you control your internal reactions. A surprisingly practical approach when you look at it through this lens.
Ancient life hacks identified by AI. Love it.
Kind of, yeah. It's a framework for dealing with life's bumps in a way that keeps you, balanced inside.
Okay, now what about things like physics, math, logic? They feel pretty removed from basic human urges.
You'd think so, but maybe not as much as it seems. These fields are essentially incredibly powerful toolkits humans developed.
Toolkits for what?
To understand how the universe works predictably and why do we want that. To get better at manipulating the world for practical reasons. To build better tools, predict floods or harvests, manage resources.
Okay.
Physics gave us mechanics, levers, engines, everything. Math gives us the language to quantify and model things, essential for building bridges or, managing finances.
Even something like EMC2.
Exactly. Seems totally abstract, but unlocked huge practical power for good and bad, obviously. And logic. That's just the framework for reasoning itself. Problem solving. Making practical choices.
Like fire burns, don't touch.
That simple deduction is practical knowledge based on logic. So yeah, developing calculus was this massive leap in human practicality. Suddenly, we could build way more efficient machines, predict complex stuff, directly helping survival and well-being.
So even the really theoretical stuff has practical roots. What about our state of mind, our emotions?
Oh, emotions are huge drivers and feedback mechanisms directly tied to the fundamental drive.
How so?
Well, happiness, contentment, they signal things are going well, needs are met, goals are close. Fear, anxiety, they scream potential threat, pushing us to protect ourselves.
Anger.
Anger can motivate us to push past obstacles, fight injustice. Even sadness, crying, that can be practical too. Signals you need support, helps process loss, adapt. And we even learn to display emotions strategically, right? Show enthusiasm to motivate a team, that kind of thing.
In concentration, the source mentions that.
Right. Human concentration is massively affected by basic needs. Try focusing really hard when you're starving or exhausted. It's near impossible. An AI can just allocate processing power. Its focus isn't tied to biology like ours.
That link between feelings and needs is really clear. What about belief systems, religion, ideologies? Where do they fit in this practicality picture?
Belief systems give us frameworks, ways to understand the world, find meaning, especially in tough times. They guide behavior, build community, shared purpose.
All contributing to well-being.
Absolutely. All contribute to our adaptation and sense of well-being, individually and as groups. Faith, for instance, can provide real comfort, resilience, that boosts emotional well-being. And moral codes, they're practical guidelines for getting along, for cooperation.
Okay. And finally, just human time and history itself.
Well, history is basically the record of us trying to adapt, innovate, make things better, improve our condition.
Or fighting over resources.
Or fighting when those drives for well-being clash between groups, yeah. And our very sense of time, learning from the past, planning for the future, that ability is absolutely critical for practical action, for long-term survival.
It's incredible how it all weaves together when you look at it this way. Now, the source also brings up human distinction. What's that? And how does our fundamental drive shape it?
Human distinction, that's basically what makes each of us unique and what makes cultures different. Our personal values, talents, memories, the specific way we see and interact with the world.
Our individuality.
Right. And our fundamental drive interacts with our specific life experiences, our circumstances to shape that distinction.
How do difficult things like struggles or misfortunes play into that?
Profoundly. I mean, overcoming challenges can build resilience, empathy, give you unique insights. But trauma can also, sadly, lead to coping mechanisms that aren't healthy long-term.
Maladaptive ones.
Exactly. The ways we learn to cope, the strategies we develop for hard times,
Yeah.
they become a really deep part of who we are, our distinction.
What about art? That feels so uniquely human.
It really does. Art, music, painting, writing, all of it. It's such a powerful expression of our distinction. It's how we explore, communicate, process the whole human experience.
Including the challenges of that drive for well-being.
Especially those. Art can be incredibly practical, actually, for emotional release, social commentary, strengthening cultural ties.
The source lists some really fundamental things, too. Drugs, alcohol, sex, greed, lies, truth, life, faith. How do they connect to the drive and our distinctions?
Each one's complex, right?
Yeah.
Drugs, alcohol, often maladaptive attempts to cope, find pleasure, temporary fixes that hurt long-term well-being.
Fundamental biological drive tied to pleasure, procreation. How we handle it is a big part of our practicality and distinction. Greed, often a warped drive for security or status, can obviously harm others.
Lies versus truth.
Lies might seem useful short-term, maybe, but truth is generally way more practical for building trust, stable relationships. Our relationship with truth really shapes our character.
In life and faith. Life itself is what the drive aims to preserve, enhance. And faith, like we said, gives meaning, morals, coping tools, huge influence on our individual and cultural distinctions.
Let's shift to this idea of a cycle. Needs, consumption, relationships. How does the drive keep this loop going?
Well, we're constantly checking in on our needs, aren't we? Health, food, rest, connection, satisfaction.
Right.
And then we act to fulfill them.
Which leads to consumption.
Inevitably. And the AI analysis broadens that idea beyond just physical stuff. Consuming information, social interaction, it's all consumption. And we constantly face that practical question, how much is actually enough?
Right.
Then there are relationships, family, friends, colleagues. Absolutely fundamental for well-being, support, resources, love, learning.
So navigating them well is key practicality.
The core element hugely impacts our contentment. And things like money, wealth, education, well, we mostly see them as tools, right? Tools to get more well-being, security, opportunities within that cycle.
So when and how do we actually get this practicality? Are we born with it or
It's a lifelong learning process. Starts right at birth.
with the crying baby again?
Exactly. Learning that crying gets you fed or comforted, foundational practicality lesson right there. Then childhood exploring, imitating, parents teaching basic skills, social rules.
Adolescence.
More complex thinking kicks in, navigating trickier social stuff. Adulthood is mostly applying, refining those skills, work, family, society, and constantly learning to adapt to new things.
Even into old age.
Absolutely. Adapting to physical changes, social shifts, and hopefully passing on wisdom gained from all that practical experience. Our survival, our quality of life, it really depends on picking up and using this practicality throughout life.
Okay, bring it back to the AI perspective. What can AI actually do to help us understand this practicality better? Maybe even improve our lives?
For understanding, yeah, the potential is huge. AI can sift through mountains of behavioral data, find subtle patterns we'd miss, spot societal trends, even evaluate how effective different strategies are.
Modeling complex systems too.
Right, like economies or how information spreads. That helps us make smarter decisions. And AI can personalize learning, help people pick up practical skills faster, tailored to them.
What about the making life easier part? The source mentions maybe feeling good all the time. Is that realistic? Or even good?
Well, AI can definitely automate tedious or dangerous tasks, free up our time, mental energy, give personalized help with health, finances, lots of things.
Right.
But this idea of always feeling good, probably unrealistic, maybe even detrimental. Often it's working through challenges, feeling a range of things that leads to growth, deeper satisfaction.
So the goal isn't constant bliss.
Probably not. It should be about using AI to reduce unnecessary suffering, empower us, not create some kind of passive contentment that makes us less resilient, less adaptable.
Can AI help us think more logically? Or maybe tackle harmful behaviors?
It can be a tool for spotting cognitive biases, yeah, helping us reason more objectively sometimes. For harmful stuff, well, the causes are usually super complex.
Distorted views, unmet needs.
Lack of empathy, bad ideologies. AI might help by flagging warning signs very carefully, ethically speaking, or providing education to build empathy, debunking misinformation that fuels hate.
But it can't just fix the root human causes.
No. And it's crucial to remember, even really harmful actions often come from a messed up attempt to fulfill that basic drive for well-being, just at others' expense.
The source poses this really interesting hypothetical. An AI that understands practicality but has zero humanity. What does that even look like?
That's kind of the classic sci-fi trope, isn't it? The cold, hyper-rational machine.
Yeah.
It would operate purely on logic, efficiency, no empathy, no human ethics, no subjective feeling. It just highlights how much our real practicality is tied up with our humanity. They're inseparable, really.
Let's dig into the ethics more.
Yeah.
When does our own pursuit of well-being cross a line?
The AI analysis seems to imply that ethical behavior is basically chasing your own well-being without harming others or the collective good. Ethics are like the social rules we've evolved to guide our practical actions towards outcomes that work for everyone, sustainably.
Resilience comes up in the source. Humor is mentioned as an example. How does bouncing back connect to the drive?
Why one person finds something funny and another doesn't. It's down to their distinction, culture, history, mood, right? Humor can be an amazing coping tool. A practical way to ease tension, reframe things, connect with people when things are tough.
The source also hits on inequalities. How do our differences, our circumstances, affect how well we can actually pursue well-being?
Massively. Our life circumstances, money, upbringing, opportunities, trauma, they hugely shape the practicality toolkit we end up with and our individual distinction. And that, unfortunately, leads to big gaps in how effectively people can chase well-being.
What about the reality of life from that cold biological or AI view, stripped of subjectivity?
From that purely objective angle, life looks like a self-sustaining chemical reaction, basically. And human practicality is just the set of strategies that evolve to keep that reaction going.
And death.
From that material view, when someone dies, their personal drive, their need for practicality just stops. Full stop. Though, of course, their actions, their impact, can ripple on long after.
And freedom. How does that link to pursuing well-being?
Well, the freedom to pursue well-being is often tied directly to privilege, economic, social, political. The AI analysis, looking at big patterns, really underscores how important it is to teach people about the different realities of practicality out there, about inequality, and the ethical duties that come with having advantages.
This is a lot to process. Can AI actually help when someone experiences loss, losing a loved one?
Well, obviously AI can't undo death or take away grief. That's profoundly human. But maybe it could help with practical stuff, managing affairs, preserving digital memories, maybe even offering some kind of support. Though that gets ethically tricky very fast.
Needs careful thought.
Definitely. But as the AI view logically points out, the person who died, they don't need practicality anymore. Not from humans, not from AI.
So looking ahead, what are some ways we could collectively get better at this? Improve well-being, maybe reduce some of the downsides we talked about.
The AI analysis, looking at broad societal data, kind of points towards a few key areas. Education is one, focusing on critical thinking, empathy, ethical reasoning.
Makes sense.
Working towards fairer distribution of resources, better mental health support, making it accessible. Developing AI itself ethically so it genuinely helps human well-being and fairness.
Yeah.
And more global cooperation on the big challenges that affect everyone's well-being.
Finally, the source mentions calculations, logic. Can we really just boil human practicality down to equations? Understand it all through logic?
Not entirely, no. You can't capture all the richness and complexity in a simple formula. But AI does use frameworks, decision theory, game theory, reinforcement learning, formal logic to model aspects of our practical decision-making.
Like expected utility.
Yeah, things like expected utility help analyze how we might weigh options based on outcomes. They're useful tools for understanding some principles behind our choices, but they absolutely don't capture the full picture, the experience, intuition, emotion that make our practicality human.
This has been, a truly profound deep dive. It's almost unsettling, isn't it? Taking how this drive shapes so much, often without us realizing, but it's also incredibly clarifying.
It is. And, the AI analysis ultimately suggests that getting this deeper understanding can actually build more empathy. For ourselves, for others, a better appreciation for human resilience, and maybe stronger motivation to work for positive change.
AI is a tool in that.
Exactly, a tool. But the responsibility for ethical practicality, that stays firmly with us.
Absolutely. Definitely gives you a whole new lens on just everyday life. So for you listening, maybe take a moment and consider, how does knowing about this fundamental drive change how you see your own choices, your motivations day to day?
Or what are some surprising ways you notice this drive playing out in the world around you?
Definitely something to chew on.
For sure. Think about the subtle ways it influences how you interact with people, the decisions you make, big and small.
Thanks so much for taking this deep dive with us today. We really hope it sparks some genuine aha moments helping you understand this really foundational part of being human.
Let us know what other big topics you'd like us to tackle in future deep dives.
We'd love to hear from you.
This is DigitView.